Well, hello there, Apple Bites. This is your Apple Bite. Raphael Tavares talking to you from our show here, The Written Writ, a show where you and I and you take a journey together to become better writers. Yes, that's right. We are here, and I know what you're saying. Wait, aren't you like a couple minutes early? Well, see, we were so excited to get the show to you that we decided to jump on a little bit early and let's have some spooky fun. And of course, we can't have spooky fun without having some shadow. Right, Shadow?
What's up, partner?
How you doing, brother?
I'm doing, man. Yeah, we had to get this going. It's getting close to midnight when the ghosts and ghouls come out and whatnot.
Yeah, I've been having my spooky, spectacular fun, and I just had to like get this going. And of course, we had to get James on because, it's just a nice horror thriller type of time. Um, Besides that, I know you're still tired from Baltimore, you know, and,
Nah,
and,
it's
and from
nothing.
all those D&D games.
Yeah, that was pretty fun. Finally got to meet my crew in person, man. It was,
That is great, bro. I saw all the pictures. I was like, this guy's having fun out there.
like I've said it before, because I mean it. The whole comic community and everything over the last year has really been a silver lining and you know something to hold on to. So nothing but love, nothing but respect for all of them.
Yeah, I feel you. And I know I was heading off to HorrorCon, but that didn't work out. I was too tired from filming on Saturday that
Which
Sunday
is
got away
awesome.
from me. Yeah,
Can
it is
can we say
awesome. But I was so
the
upset.
title of the film you're filming?
Ah, it is the
I know
Get
it.
Down Gang with our star Cadma kicking some kung fu butt. It's
You
a whole
kicking butt
70s
behind the
feel,
camera.
which is funny because we were just talking about the whole 70s feel. But this thing is one of those 70s detective noir feeling type of movies. Those good ones that you just don't forget because it has a beautiful feel to it. And of course, you have to add some 70s kung fu to it. Now you got yourself some kung fu, some 70s, some detective. Uh,
How could you go wrong with that?
exactly. And I feel like that's the best way to introduce our partner here. It is James Chambers, who is fantastic at his horror writing. And we wanted to have him aboard to like talk some spooky stuff, some Kolchak, and all things geeky.
Well, thank you for having me on, man. This is awesome.
No problem,
Pleasure, sir.
bro. I'm happy that you came on because we always have a blast when you're on and we're talking to you. Especially when I run into you at the conventions. We go back and forth. Next thing you know, time has flown. All right, so we know who you are, but go ahead, run your pitch. Tell the people who you are. Tell them what you're working at the moment. Just give them the rundown.
Sure. Yeah. My name is Jim Chambers. Kung Fu Detectives was like 80% of my TV viewing as a child. Uh, I'm a writer mostly of short stories, novellas, comics, graphic novels. I'm also an editor. I won a Bram Stoker Award for Kolchak the Night Stalker, The Forgotten Lore of Edgar Allan Poe, an original graphic novel. I also was the editor for a few years of Leonard Nimoy's Primortals and Gene Roddenberry's Lost Universe comics, as well as Isaac Asimov's iBots and some other odds and ends at the late and lamented Techno Comics, which you have to be above a certain age to remember. But
I don't know what you're talking about.
And most recently, I've had some short story collections published on the Night Border, a collection of horror stories, and a follow-up volume that just came out a couple of weeks ago on the Hierophant Road, a collection of science fiction, fantasy, weird, dark, and unusual tales.
Which we love. Especially all your Kolchak stuff. It's funny. We were just talking about this in the back in the green room, and we were like discussing how popular he's gotten, and it's not surprising, but it's surprising at the same time.
I mean, considering that the character started out in a novel by Jeff Rice that I think actually wound up being adapted for a television movie in 1973, 1972, 1973, before it was published.
Right.
And, and that's the full canon of original Kolchak is 2 television movies most of one season of a TV series. I think it ran just shy of like the full 24 episodes or whatever it was in 1974, and 2 novels by Jeff Rice. And the character is just one of those iconic characters. Darren McGavin played him in the movies and on the TV shows, and was so great at creating that character that he's just really memorable.
Oh my God! Yeah.
And the show inspired the X-Files. You know, that sense of the seeker for truth against the occult, the paranormal, the supernatural, the alien. Kolchak was a reporter. His first TV movie, he went up against a vampire in Las Vegas, modern day Las Vegas. And of course, nobody believed him. The police didn't believe him. His own editor didn't believe him. Nobody wanted to publish anything Kolchak found out about these things, because who wants to put these crazy stories out there about werewolves, zombies, and headless motorcycle riders?
Exactly.
So,
This is before the Inquirer, huh?
Exactly. Yeah. And somehow today he's got such a devoted following. He's more popular, I think, now than he was, when this show went off the air. And next year, 2022, is his 50th anniversary. And there's going to be some fun stuff to celebrate it.
Oh man, it's funny that you say that. When I knew something was happening when I started seeing in the conventions themselves people dressed as Kolchak. That threw me off, because I knew who it was right away, but you sitting there having other people going, "What's he cosplaying as?" But at that moment, I was like, "Okay, something's happening." Kolchak seems to be coming back up on the radar here. If cosplayers have gotten this and they're moving in that direction.
Yeah, I mean, that was something I've enjoyed seeing at conventions, and one of my most surreal moments at New York Comic Con was the year that a Kolchak cosplayer bought the Kolchak graphic novel from the table I was working at. And awesome. He had the costume down to a T, the camera, the tape recorder, he had everything, and looked great. And he was kind enough to let me take a picture of him holding the graphic novel.
Oh my God. I was going to say, I hope you got a picture of that, because
yes,
you have to have a picture.
But yeah, and the people who cosplay as Kolchak go all out. They really, I've seen Facebook threads where they're debating exactly what kind of watch he wore in the TV show, and trying to pin down that model Timex or something like that. And that the attention to detail, I think the fans give it that attention because the attention to detail was there in creating the character.
That's true. That is true too. Yeah. And you have something if this thing actually was the reason why the X-Files came from. And the guy who created the X-Files says that he did get his whole, the whole feeling for it from watching Kolchak. That's just amazing. Because that means that it's already leading us into that direction, and it's a lot for a little show that only had one season and a couple of movies, like you said.
Yeah, it really was powerful, and I spent a lot of time talking to horror writers, as you might guess. And I haven't met one yet who doesn't know and love Kolchak. You mentioned it's like the name comes up, and every horror writer I know is like, "Oh, I love Kolchak." Exactly,
and it's so funny because it's like it's that detective horror, which a lot of people don't get into anymore. And I know X-Files was that type of horror, but they stylized it, and they moved away from the whole idea that these guys were detectives because they're secret agents or agents, But we know what we're talking about because in the 70s you had those guys who would go out there and fight the supernatural, and they were just like these detective type guys.
Yeah, I mean he was a reporter, but it was the same basic model. He was investigating, he was getting the clues, and there was really a Kolchak story. It's he would encounter the supernatural. He'd be the one to see the connections, put it together. He'd always, or maybe not always, but often find an expert in folklore or the supernatural who could guide him and kind of explain, "Oh, it sounds like you're up against a vampire. Here's how you kill it." And he would do that research, and then because no one believed him, he was the one that had to go out and put the stake through the vampire's heart. Or, we were talking before we went live, talking about the episode where he had to defeat a zombie and he had to go and fill its mouth with salt and sew its lips shut. And it was it's one of the most gruesome and sort of chilling episodes in the series. And we were talking about how Kolchak was kind of an everyman, and the whole time he's doing this, he's sweating bullets. He looks uncomfortable. He looks like he's ready to jump at the slightest twitch if the zombie moves.
Right.
And I think that's what really cemented the character in so many people's minds, is that really down to earth humanity. He's overcoming his fear. He's terrified. It's not like he's out there, ha ha, zombies, I eat zombies for breakfast. He's,
It's funny though, because it actually showcases that true bravery. Because bravery is actually overcoming your fear and still doing what you need to do. A lot of people think it's that whole bravado bravery where I'm not scared. I'm going to do whatever I need to do, and I can deal with this monster.
It's good writing.
Yeah, it is. It's great writing, and it actually feels more heroic.
But yeah, he's overcoming, and that's what makes him interesting. And I think there's a lot of that lost in contemporary stories of the same vein. Characters really take to the supernatural very easily in a lot of these modern movies and TV shows. They just sort of buy in very quickly because it's convenient for the plot.
Right.
And they adjust. They might scream and say, I'm terrified, but they're not really showing it the way that came across in Kolchak.
I completely agree. It actually, it kind of gives you something to play with. It kind of gives the character areas to grow. He can become that hero, but I always feel like even if he gets used to this stuff, he's still going to have that moniker of fear that he has to overcome in order to deal with whatever he's dealing with. Yeah,
he never got thick-skinned about it.
Yeah. Oh man, and of course we like Kolchak, but you are a writer that writes, I guess, a lot, and you have a lot of works out there. And all right, so what do you think is your best thing to write? What do you love to write the most? Because I know you have to have something that you're like, all right, Ralph, this is what I like, and I want to talk to you about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tie between comics and short stories. And I love writing comics and graphic novels. I don't get to do it as much as I'd like, just because of the nature of the way things work out.
Right.
But it's something that I just take great joy in writing a comic and working with an artist, and writing something that I'm going to hand off to an artist and going to see how they envision it. And I've been very fortunate throughout my comics writing to work with really talented professional artists, and have really never been let down by the results. Even and often an artist, and I'm sure you both know this, will take something you wrote and go in a very different direction with how they tell the story on the page than what you envisioned. And that's exciting for me. And I'd say, almost every time they've made a better choice. And part of that is they're bringing their style to the story. And so they know their strengths. They know the best way for them to tell the story. So, they're not changing the story. It's still bringing across what was in the script, but it's in a new way than the way you saw it. I love that about comics.
Yeah, I also love the collaborative effort that comic books are. And you're right, when you get a good artist, and you guys are working like a well-oiled machine, you guys get the complete creative process. Because a lot of people think that creating comics it's only about the writer, or it's only about the artist, but it's that joint team that gets you out there. Because you got somebody who sometimes you are a writer and an artist. That helps out. I wish I was a writer and an artist, because I'd be like, okay, I'm going to write and draw my own comics. But that alone is a lot of work, especially when you're doing both hats. But that whole process, I think people don't realize that the writer and the artist both have a bit on what they're creating. That's why a lot of people, when they look at Stan Lee, they do this whole, Steve did this and Steve did that. but it's a collaborative effort. Both of them were able to put their own aspects into it. Without Stan Lee, you wouldn't have gotten the whole thing. Without Steve Ditko, you wouldn't have gotten the whole thing. So,
Yeah, exactly. It's a visual medium, so the artist is essential. But you've got to have a good story to tell. And I think there have been some pretty interesting experiments with artists who tried to become writers, with varying levels of success. In some cases, really successful. In some cases, they kind of backed off and said, maybe I should get a writer to help me out with this.
That's definite.
So,
well, like I said, when you're doing it by yourself, it's a lot of work. Because when you're doing it with somebody else, it's a lot of work. So I don't even want to imagine what it's like to draw and write your own comic.
Yeah, I've never done it. I wish I could draw well enough to do comics, but that's not that's not my fate. And
I feel you.
But when I want that kind of control over a story, that's why I like short stories too. That's a different animal. It's not collaborative. And if you have a vision and you want to make sure that you get exactly that vision across to the reader, then just you and the blank page, and hopefully 5,000 words later you've got that ready for somebody to read and understand.
So you've done the comic books, and you've done probably some good sci-fi stuff. Have you done horror comic books themselves besides Kolchak?
Yeah. After my stint at Techno Comics, a friend of mine who was an editor there at the same time I was, Christopher Mills, the two of us launched a horror comic called Shadow House. And this was something we put together ourselves, and it was set up kind of like the classic Strange Tales from Marvel. It had 2 ongoing series in each issue. And I wrote one and Chris wrote the other, and Dan Brereton did some covers for us. Pat Broderick was drawing my story, and Fred Harper was drawing Chris's story. Kirk Van Warmer was doing our 2-page intro host character, Autumn.
Right.
And I did something called The Revenant, which was about this undead creature of vengeance that had been dredged up from the swamps and was menacing a town on the Everglades in Florida. And Chris did Nightmark, which is really classic sort of supernatural detective story, very noir, very hard boiled.
Cool.
And we had a great time doing it. It was a black and white comic, totally independent. This was in the late 90s, and the independent comics world was very different then than it is today. And Chris and I had both been bouncing around comics since the late 80s in some way or another. And it's been interesting to watch the progression of independent comics from the days when, you could put out a black and white book out of your garage, basically. And within a few years, you were Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird, with this huge media property that just exploded out of an independent black and white book. There was just a lot more room in the industry, I think, then for the mom and pop kind of comic creators to do these books and take chances. And there's still room for that, but it's been, at the time, there really were very few options to publish a comic without selling off 100% of your rights to the publisher. If you worked for Marvel, if you worked for DC, even if you created a character or a concept, they owned it outright. And, Vertigo changed some of that where there was a shared copyright thing, but you couldn't create and hold on to your own comic book rights unless you self-published in some way. And that started to change with companies like Dark Horse and Image, which became more creator friendly. And now you've got a host of companies that are out there publishing books like that. Boom Studios, which has become huge. IDW, but I guess IDW does a lot more licensed stuff now.
Yeah. They've gotten a lot of the good licenses, G.I. Joe, and Transformers. They're really hitting it.
What do you think of the Substacks migration?
Are they now that Substack is fairly new, and I haven't gotten that familiar with them yet. Are they backing independent, like creator-owned comics?
It's creators going to Substacks basically to do their own thing
Oh,
and
cool.
to pitch it out.
Wow.
Yeah. Tiny
Well, I didn't
just
know that
went over there,
either.
if I understand it correctly.
Yeah, I think that's. I mean, any outlet for writers and artists to get their work directly out to the readers is, I think that's a positive. But our comic lasted about 5 issues. I like to say we were critically acclaimed, but commercially unsuccessful. We just couldn't quite get the numbers to muster. I think if we had been able to hold on maybe 2-3 more issues,
Right.
we would have hit the plateau we needed. Our numbers were starting to come up. But that's the risk when you're an independent publisher, is that you may not have the capital to keep it going long enough to get those holds into the market.
And we've seen that. We've seen that with even with the big companies. There's times where you have to let the book run its course to see if it's going to go somewhere. And so, and with them, they can afford it, even though sometimes they cut it really too soon. But that's the whole issue. Sometimes you're getting to where you got to go, and you either run out of money or somebody pulls that from you.
Yeah, there's a lot of unfinished stories out there.
Oh, definitely.
And sadly, a lot of the ones.
There's some books I'm still wanting to chase. Going, how does it end?
Yes.
It's hard to call them. I mean, you've got big books that have all this buzz behind them that never really deliver too. So
that too. Vincent Vlad saying, "What's up to us?" Hey, Vincent, how you doing? And there goes Anthony, Mr. Roaming Tony himself. Yeah, Nick Spencer's Amazing Spider-Man and Hickman's X-Men went to Substack. Oh, so Hickman and Spencer went to Substack. Okay. Well, that makes sense because they've got
Tiny Ian and Snyder and
they're all heading over there.
Yeah, there was. I guess this wasn't Substack, but there was a big booth in Artist Alley at New York Comic Con just for Scott Snyder.
Yeah.
I guess he's doing some stuff with Comixology.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. Yeah, but Nick Spencer and Jonathan Hickman are 2 of the biggest writers. Most recently, I guess, at Marvel.
Yeah.
So that's interesting that they're switching over to something new.
Yeah, I don't know if Snyder is. Well, he launched Best Jacket Press, like his own thing too. But the Comixology thing, he's releasing it on there first, and then you can get it at LCS's, but not till the next year or something. It's going to be super low quantities.
Interesting.
Actually makes sense because we're going through whatever we're going through, so who knows when we're going to go back to normal.
Yeah, I guess it'll stop. You're gonna know what to expect for buys on it. You're not going to be overshooting it or undershooting it.
And there's
we'll see.
Publisher that kind of took the opposite approach. Bad Idea Comics that I don't know if you guys are familiar with them. They've been publishing books.
Dinesh.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Really interesting model. They're not doing second prints. They're not collecting anything. As I understand it, comic shops have to, if they order a book, issue 1, they've got to order all issues in that series at the same level.
Ooh.
There's all sorts of weird things about it, and they're not putting them out digitally. So it's really like, this is it. You can get the issues. That's where the story's going to live. And we're not going to make any more of them after we publish them. I'll be curious to see how that works out because, it sounds interesting, but at the end of the day, in the long run, you're passing up on so much opportunity to put your stories in readers' hands and make money that I wonder if they'll be able to hold to that.
It sounds like, that's his whole approach to it is he just takes every cliche bad idea in comic books and then runs with it. 200 different, they only go in 200 shops, and like you said, super limited runs. You got to buy the whole thing. I've tried to get a hold of a couple of books, and I'm like, no, I'm sorry, they're gone. If you didn't pre-order it, can't get it. So
yeah, I got lucky and found a shop that was ordering them and pre-ordered as they came up, and they're good books. The stories,
they're good.
Yeah.
Actually kind of reminds me how things used to be. When we were younger, you go to the comic store, if you missed the issue, you better hope they were running a second print, because that was it. You weren't gonna get it unless you found it in some back issue store somewhere. And then, I was pretty good at it, because my friends would call me up and go, Ralph, you need to find this issue for me. And I would hit up all the comic stores in the city, and then, I had this whole like way of getting to them, this whole network. And it was a lot of fun, but it was something that, you don't deal with that now. You don't have that. If you miss it, you can probably catch it over here, or you can catch it over there. Hello,
Yes.
daughter. Of course, this is my daughter over here.
Oh, hello.
I'm not sure. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, nowadays, if you miss it, you can try to catch it on eBay, but usually it's like 10 times the price.
That too, and at the same time though, like you still might catch it when they put all the books together. You still might catch it when they put it on Comixology. You still might catch it. It's not like it used to be, because that model is the old-fashioned way of making comics. It's like, well, you better catch it when it comes out, because we're not doing anything with it.
Right.
Oh man, that brings back so many memories.
Yep, the back issue hunt.
Oh my god, yeah, it was a lot of fun, and it was an interesting time period. So I know you say you worked with Roddenberry and Leonard Nimoy. How was that?
It was really exciting. It was fascinating. Working with Leonard Nimoy was awesome. He would read the scripts. We'd talk them through on the phone. He would talk about the ideas he had. If you've seen his movies, it probably won't come as any surprise that he had a really sharp sense of story and character. And he kind of got it. I don't think he really 100% understood how comic storytelling worked.
Right.
But he didn't need to. He knew the ideas, and he would focus in on the things that were important to him, the characters, the plot. And, he was very involved. We actually did, I worked on a 2-issue storyline in the Primordial series called Origins that I worked with him very closely on to get the origin of the Primordial series out. And he had ideas about that. He'd had things kind of worked out, and we just had to make it work for a comic book and kind of build in the story parts of it that he hadn't worked out. So he was great. And on Gene Roddenberry's Lost Universe, by the time we were working on that, Gene Roddenberry had passed away. But Majel Barrett Roddenberry was overseeing the book. And so we got input from Majel and from DC Fontana on that series as consultants. And that was, I was, I missed the first round of Star Trek, the original series.
Right.
But I'd seen them all in reruns. And, at the time, Next Generation was still on. And I was a huge fan of that. So getting that close to anything Star Trek was just really kind of interesting, and getting a glimpse inside of Roddenberry's creativity, because both Majel and DC Fontana had very strong, a strong grasp on what he had envisioned for the property we were working with. And, they had a lot of input, and I got to meet Leonard a couple of times. I got to meet Majel a couple of times. Ooh. And just chat and kind of talk. And, it was really a lot of fun to work on those books. And we tried to make them as, the best books we could. I think Primordials really found its footing after a while and became a great comic. Lost Universe floundered here and there. There were editorial changes before I took over the book. And so it was kind of going in a weird direction, and we had to get it back on track. And then there was a licensing deal on the book, and the licensor said, well, we love everything about this, but these 3 things. And so, like, kill them or blow them up or something and get them out of the book. So it was like, okay, wow. This is like, 90-degree turn number 3. And, but it was fun. So I had a good time working with them. I worked on the Isaac Asimov comic too. Isaac Asimov's iBots. He had passed away by then, so I didn't really have any connections there. But with that one, I got to work with some of my comic creator favorites. So that book, I wound up working to develop the book from Asimov's initial plot with Howard Chaykin and George Perez and Stephen Grant.
Wow.
And, it was a blast.
It sounds like a blast, man. Those gentlemen alone. I know right now there's probably a bunch of Star Trek and this is a bunch of Star Trek fans out there going, "You got to work with who? You got to see them?" Because you know how Trekkies are.
Yeah, I mean, and Leonard Nimoy came to visit us at the Techno Comics offices.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And he brought us bagels. He came in, he brought like bagels and
an assortment or specific flavors.
An assortment. It was like a banquet of bagels and cream cheeses and stuff, and such a nice guy.
That's what I had heard about Leonard, that he was just this awesome guy.
Yeah, and it's funny because I grew up as a fan also of In Search Of, and he hosted this 70s. Do you guys remember that?
I remember In Search Of. One of my favorite shows. Yeah, I know that I watch all these supernatural shows now because of In Search Of, and I know that, because I remember as a kid watching this, going, "Oh my God, what?"
Yes, it's all real.
Yeah, Bigfoot, Amityville, what's going on?
Yeah.
Oh, it was such a great show. Yeah, and he was such a great host to it. His voice was so
yeah, perfect. Well, that was the weirdest thing was, answering the phone and it's Spock. And I can't tell this story on air, but sometime I'll tell you my funniest conversation with Spock.
It's funny. We were just talking about the whole comic thing, and Anthony was saying last comic he remembers being a problem regarding availability was the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, I'm guessing. Ronin #1, which I know was sold out for ages. The book sold out for months before it came out because the pre-orders were so high. And I remember that book was just like selling like hotcakes. And then I think you're right, Anthony. I think it's the last book that's been really hard to get. And he said, Spock brought bagels. Oh, snap. Yeah, that's an interesting story.
Yeah.
Let's see. His voice was perfect for In Search Of. It was. It brought that gravitas to it. You didn't feel like it was campy. You actually felt like, I think because of Spock, you actually took it more serious.
Yeah. Yeah. He brought, you're right. He brought some weight to the show. To the character, and that was such a great balance in the original show of Kirk, Spock, and McCoy.
It was definitely was.
Yeah.
I think McCoy was my favorite for a long time. I was so sad to see him. He was like one of the first ones to go, and I was like, oh. And I loved his character. He was a great character actor. Yeah, Bones was the man. Him and his I am not this Jim.
Right. and how weird is it that William Shatner has just now gone into space?
Oh my God, that is so amazing. It has to be surreal for him because all these years of being this captain in space and now being actually able to go out there, and especially at the age he is, that just says a lot. He's what, 90, 93?
90 something, definitely. I think around.
I know he's up there. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was worried that he wouldn't be able to handle the takeoff.
Yeah, I guess they gave him a comfy chair.
Amazon's got pretty decent packaging when you get Prime orders.
That's a good way to look at it. Amazon knows how to package things. You get it pretty good when you get it in the house. Shatner was packaged.
He was surrounded by those little like bags of air that they the strips of.
I can see all that. They're like, oh, don't worry about it. We got the styrofoam. We got the little poppy thingies. Come on, we got them there. Riley B is saying, "Hey, what's going on, y'all?" And finish the Hellraiser figure.
Hellraiser,
ooh.
Nice.
Riley B is an amazing artist. He puts all these figures together. Just like Shadow does over here. You see the stuff behind them is all Shadow's creation, well, except for the comics.
Rally B was tearing it up at the HorrorCon last weekend.
At the HorrorCon, yeah. Him and Rolo were out there having a great time.
Cool.
Yeah,
Which con was that?
The Brooklyn Horror Con. It was the first time that Brooklyn had a horror con.
I didn't even know about it. Wow.
I found out about it really late, and then I was trying to make it there this weekend because this weekend past was HorrorCon, and it just didn't work out. But I've heard a lot of good things about it. I heard that it went very well, from the people that were actually vending the tables, which is always a good sign.
Yeah.
If the vendors are happy.
Well, I love Hellraiser, so nice job on the Hellraiser figure.
Yeah, man, you got to check out his work. He especially kills it with the horror figures, I think.
Oh my God, yeah. Yeah, it's the reason he went to Brooklyn Horror Con was because we were telling him, dude, man, you got to get those figures out there. They're just fantastic. He has Jason and Chucky and all the rest of them, and he did it very well.
Yeah. Is it Pinhead, the Hellraiser figure?
Yeah, it's Pinhead, right?
He was working on it last week when we were talking.
I think I can pop it up. Let's see if he actually posted something. Riley, you better have posted something because I'm looking you up.
I haven't been on the internet too much the last couple of days, so I'm not as up to date with everyone's posting. But
let's see what we got. Oh yeah, he just posted up. Hold on, I'll bring it up for you guys.
Okay.
Share the screen.
We got to plug our people a little bit, so
All right, here we go. Rally B.
Oh wow!
And it still amazes me that this is paper mache. You know what I'm saying, dude? I don't know how you can do this stuff. Just wow, bro.
Killed it.
That's really cool.
He's even got the box.
Yep.
Yeah, and like I said,
well done.
Just in time for Halloween.
Oh, there you go. That's the full figure. Oh,
nice.
Beautiful, just beautiful.
Murdered it, bro. As always.
You did good, kid.
But yes, sir. Thanks in no small part to people like yourselves. I mean, horror is coming back
exactly
real strong right now.
Yeah.
Do you get any time to read any other creators' work? You're talking about comic books. Are you on anything right now?
I read a lot. I'm usually reading a bunch of stuff at the same time. Comics. What am I'm reading right now? I'm rereading Taboo, which was a late 80s comics magazine that Stephen Bissett and a bunch of other people published, and it was the place where things like From Hell first appeared, and he published stuff by like Michael Zully and trying to remember what else is in there. It's like a crazy, completely across the line horror comic. Taboo is an accurate name. There's nothing that they wouldn't, but it's really good stuff. It's like thoughtful, well written stuff, horror. So I've been rereading those, and I just pulled my Man-Thing omnibus off the shelf the other night to do a little Swamp Monster reading for Halloween.
Swamp Thing, a Man-Thing, all the things.
Exactly. Yeah.
Some people forget that Marvel has this beautiful line of horror-related characters.
Yeah. Werewolf by Night, Tomb of Dracula, all those great classic horror comics they did.
Well, Moon Knight coming, you might see that sooner than later.
Which one?
True. Moon Knight is coming back out.
Moon Knight's about to come, so Werewolf by Night might be.
That's what they're saying.
Pretty soon.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, Moon Knight is a great character.
Mm-hmm.
What else am I reading? I guess as far as new stuff goes, I was checking out Marvel's new Alien series, which honestly I was a little disappointed with. But
yeah,
I mean, this is going to sound weird coming from a writer, but it's all. I kind of felt this way about like the most recent Godzilla movies too. There's too much story. It's like I don't want all these talking heads. Just give me monsters and aliens.
Let them fight. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But I'm also reading a really excellent novel by Ronald Malfi called "Come With Me."
Interesting. What's it about?
It's a horror novel about a man whose wife is killed in a random shooting. I can't say too much about it without spoiling,
Revealing
but
everything, yeah.
It's based on real things that Ron experienced, but not literally. Like his wife is fine, as far as I know. But I think someone he knows was actually killed in an office shooting, and it kind of inspired this novel. And it's the husband, after his wife is murdered, discovers that she had some secrets, and he starts investigating. And it looks like she was a reporter. It looks like she was on the trail of a possible serial killer. And now he's kind of getting deeper and deeper down this rabbit hole, but every lead goes somewhere unexpected. And it's a really great book. And Ron's a terrific writer. His prose is just magical. So, if you're looking for a good horror novel, come with me.
I like that. If you're looking for good, come with me.
Yeah.
It's
I like the title alone. Yeah. Oh man, that's pretty good. I know that as writers we're supposed to keep up with our craft and read stuff that that's out there, and we do. It's because we like what we like and we like what we're writing. So we're gonna actually check out other people. It's just the way it is.
Yeah, I mean, one of the best things writers can do is to read. You've got to read everything and anything you can get your hands on, and that's for me it's an important part of being a writer.
Yeah, man, it's just more worlds to conquer.
It's so funny because you get a lot of people out there. They go, "Do I have to read in order to write?" I'm like, "You don't have to read in order to write, but you're gonna miss some stuff out from your writing style if you're not reading other people's work." Because I feel like your style becomes a conglomerate of all the things you've ever read. And it also is a way to help you find your voice, which is not as easy as it sounds. Everybody, one of the biggest things that I saw with all these writing books and how to write books is like, find your voice, and they make it sound so easy. And I'm like, that was not easy. Even now, when I'm writing, I go, is this my voice or am I doing somebody else? Because I don't know about you, but when was it you finally figured out you found your voice?
I'll let you know when it happens.
It's not just me.
No, I mean, the thing is that, and this is probably a quirk of just how the path I've taken in writing a lot of short fiction. I've written in a lot of different genres, and I have a bad habit of reinventing my style for the story. So if I'm writing a story and I feel like it needs a certain tone or style, I create that for that story. So just to the extent that I have found my voice, I think it's not really right there in my prose all the time. It's sort of in the themes that I write about and things like that. But I do feel like I have developed a style that I come back to, a certain way of telling the story, a certain way of phrasing a sentence that is kind of, defines my voice, so to speak. But I think our voices as writers change over time. We want to say different things. Different things interest us. We mature, we learn, we find new ways to express ideas. And so, being a writer is constantly growing. I think it's part of the journey.
I completely agree with you. Only because I realized that the voice, excuse me, voice. Speaking of voice, that was interesting. Okay, the voice I have doesn't work for everything I'm writing.
Yeah.
So I have to figure out how I'm going to write something different, because it's not the way I would normally write will not work for whatever it is that I'm writing here, because I feel like I have a more poetic rhythm to my writing. So I completely agree with you. I feel like that we're constantly looking, even when you find your voice, you're constantly going, well, that's not going to work here. What am I going to do? Mm-hmm. Especially like you're saying, like we're doing different genres. I love doing different genres. I don't like staying in one place, even though that I find that I have this weird fantasy, supernatural, spiritual, horror type of thing that I stay in. but at the same time, I dip out of it all the time. So
Yeah, and I think that's a good thing to do, to get out of your comfort zone, to flex different writing muscles,
mhm.
to think about stories in a different way. And especially if you're genre hopping, every genre has its own conventions.
Yeah,
And you have to learn them. I have seen writers try to cross over from, say, science fiction to horror, or horror to science fiction, and they write something and that there's not really anything wrong with what they've written, but it's unaware of the conventions in that genre, and so it reads a little off, or it reads as naive, or kind of familiar. So it's tricky,
mhm.
and but it's fun.
Yeah, yeah, completely. Oh my God, yeah. Anytime I try to write something that I don't usually write, it's an interesting experience. It is an interesting practice, and it's one of the best ways to actually get yourself improving. You
Yeah.
know, one of the favorite things I like to do on the Written Writ is get, somebody just challenges me to doing something. Either they give me a writer's prompt, or they give me a word, they give me something, and then I create around it, to see what we can come up with. Because it's a blast. It's that thing that we love to do as writers. Is that initial creation period. You know,
Right.
we get bogged down in the writing of things, but when we're first creating, it's just this gift from heaven.
Yeah, it's catching the lightning in a bottle.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's so exciting. And then they're like, well, why don't you finish the work? Oh, come on. But there's so much more stuff to get lightning from.
Right.
Not that there's something wrong with finishing the work. It's just that, the brain keeps working. I don't know how it is for you, but I'm constantly, at least for me, it's not just one story at a time. It's about 3 or 4 of them having a party in my head, deciding, how are you going to figure this out, Ralph?
I'm usually writing only one piece at a time. I try to write something and finish it. And I've found that if I write something and stop to go work on something else, the piece I stopped always suffers in some way.
Hmm.
But when I'm writing that one piece, I'm thinking about half a dozen other projects.
Okay.
I mean, the brain doesn't stop. And I think, you may have experienced this. A good portion of writing is done when you're doing anything but writing.
Yeah.
I mean, I go out, mow the lawn, and my brain is like, hey, here are story ideas. Um, I, just see something in the news, and it's like, hey, here's something that makes that story you were considering work.
Exactly.
And you start plotting and you start thinking about characters. And usually by the time I sit down to write, I've got a lot of the work done. And it's like, okay, now let's put this in shape and make it a story. So I think that's, a lot of writers are like that. They never can fully power down the writing brain.
Yeah. I completely agree with you. And it's funny because, then it comes those times where that you should write whatever it is that is in your head down, but it's always in a moment where you just can't write it down.
Right.
I'm in the middle of taking a shower. I can't write anything down now. And then when you come out of the shower, it's like, damn it, what the hell was that?
I have a writer friend who got a waterproof pad for exactly that purpose.
That makes sense.
She said she gets ideas in the shower. So she's like, I just got this pad. I can write them down so I don't forget them.
That is a great idea. I've actually seen that in some places, and I'm like, I should just get that just to play it safe.
Right.
Oh man. So I'm going to bring up, because I know you got the new Kolchak project, and there's a bunch of new Kolchak things you're doing coming out. I'm going to bring it up so you can talk to us a little bit about it while I look for the stuff over here. Go right ahead.
Okay, yeah, Kolchak. So the most recent thing I did with Kolchak is the novella Kolchak and the Night Stalkers, the Faceless God. And this was a kind of a new take on Kolchak. Moonstone wanted to team him up with a bunch of other pulp characters. And so in Kolchak and the Night Stalkers, it's a Kolchak story that also brings in a bunch of characters like Mr. Keen, Flint, The Cat, Foxy Brown, Black Shirt, and Domino Lady. And so that was a fun challenge to figure out a Kolchak story that had room for all of those characters and for each one to have a real part in the story.
Right.
And they're up against, Kolchak had to team up on that one because he was up against not one, but two Lovecraftian cults who were dead set on doing all sorts of evil, terrible things to the world. But the one you've got on screen, this one, I'm really thrilled to be part of this. Next year is Kolchak's 50th anniversary, and Moonstone Books teamed up with James Aquilone to publish a 50th anniversary graphic novel. And
Wow.
it's going to come out sometime next year. Artists are still being lined up. The piece of art in the image is by Jerry Ordway, who's one of my favorite comic artists. And writers for the book, I'm happy to say I'm part of the writing team. I'll be doing a story. Tim Wagoner is doing a story. Kim Newman, Jonathan Mayberry, Peter David, I think Nancy Holder, Jim Beard. I think the names are all there. I'm trying to remember. Let's see. Maybe scroll down a bit.
Let's see. Oh, here we go.
One listed.
Yeah. So let's see. We got Moonstone is Promising Star crew, including Kim Newman, Peter David, Ronnie Barnes, Paul McCaffrey, Colton Worley, and J.K. Woolward.
Yeah.
Yep, and it continues down over here. That's a lot of names.
Yeah, no, it's an amazing lineup for a character that. Oh, yeah, this piece of art, I think if you scroll down just a bit more, this is the Colton Worley piece, and I love the Janos Skorzeny vampire that he depicted, and his Darren McGavin looks fantastic. Wow! And there's the zombie. We were talking about the zombie.
Yeah, there we go. So, beautiful stuff. Oh,
yeah, I'm really excited to be part of this, and looking forward to writing my story. And I have other Kolchak stuff in the works. Nothing I can be too specific about yet, but I have another Kolchak Comics project on my desk, and some more short stories, and possibly even another novella about the Night Stalkers. We'll see.
Sounds good. We're not going to stop you from doing any more Kolchak stuff. So
thank you. I appreciate it.
They were like, yeah, sure, bring it on.
He's a fun character to write, and I've really gotten attached to him.
Let's see what we got here. I'm at your page, your Facebook page.
Oh, cool.
There we go.
Yeah, that's from a Carol Geisander and I were guests on a podcast called Tell the Damn Story with Alex Simmons and Christopher Ryan. So we get to talk about Kolchak there too.
It seems like Kolchak is decided that you need to tell his story, and he's following you around.
I'm happy to tell his story. Yeah. So
the good thing is, all of us writers, we have certain things we like to go back to. We have our own things, and it all balances as its way out, as long as you like what you're doing. And bro, you seem to like exactly what you're doing. So
I'm having a great time. One of the posts you went by is an anthology that I edited that came out in June called Under Twin Suns: Alternate Histories of the Yellow Sign. And it just got that was the one. If you just go back up just a touch,
this one,
the cover for my book didn't make it into their preview, but this is it actually got written up in the Washington Post last week.
Ooh.
By Michael Durda, who's the literary critic there, alongside Ellen Datlow's latest anthology, which
you said Under the Twin Suns, right?
What's that? Yes, Under Twin Suns. Yeah.
Oh, you got a picture here. There we go.
So very excited about that book. Had a lot of fun working with the authors. This is all stuff inspired by The King in Yellow and the Yellow Sign and the Carcosa mythos created by Robert W. Chambers. So that was a blast. And I'm enjoying it.
This is a beautiful cover.
Yeah, I was stunned. And it's a wraparound cover. I don't think I have the whole image
Ooh.
up handy, but Aaron Alfrey did that cover, and his art is about the best sort of like gruesome, grotesque, moody, gothic horror art you can find.
It
Yeah,
does.
it's
It
evoking all
reminds me of
that.
that classic stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's beautiful, dude. You're doing some great work. That's why we love having you on, because you're constantly working on something, and you cross genres, which is always pretty good.
Yeah, I mean that's what makes it fun. I think I might get a little bit stale if I just kept writing the same genre consistently. Um,
And you get a lot of this. I love Kolchak. I used to watch
yeah,
it when I was on TV when I was a kid.
that's it.
Oh man, and I know Leslie. She was trying to get you on her show, and she was like, "Oh my God, yeah," because she's a big fan of Kolchak.
Yes, yeah. I remember when we chatted last year. I think around
Yeah.
Halloween,
Mhm.
she was going on about Kolchak, and that's the thing. People that know Kolchak and are fans really do love the character.
Yeah.
Everybody's so passionate about what a great character he is.
It's funny because I don't think I've seen the show since I saw it when I was a kid, and I can tell you, like, a lot of the episodes I have not forgotten them.
They were memorable.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny. I was talking with. I had an opportunity a few weeks ago to chat with a bunch of Horror Writers Association members in Europe, and we were talking about how popular horror is right now and how it's kind of in a resurgence.
It is. Mhm.
And I made a kind of a general point that like 30 years ago, 40 years ago, this stuff just wasn't out there, and if we got 2 TV movies and a 1 season series of good horror TV,
Yeah.
that was gold.
Yeah.
And
It was amazing.
yeah, and then you'd wait 5 years for the next horror series to come on, and it wouldn't be as good.
No.
There were more disappointments than there were successes, and that went on. I mean, I remember, even in the '80s, it was like you really waited for the good stuff to come out, and there was a scarcity of it. And so one of the things I said at that meeting was, I'll bet one of the reasons we're seeing so much horror now is because all of those people like us are now,
Yeah.
in charge of stuff.
I
And we're like,
agree.
we don't have enough horror. Let's get more horror out there. Let's bring back all this cool stuff, and let's, people love it. And I think it's true because horror really does well.
It's
Good
funny.
horror just always finds an audience.
I completely agree. It's funny that you're saying that, because I thought that Universal would because they wanted to bring back the Universal monsters, and they did these movies, and I was like, you figure that they would know that what you need to do is more. I know they try to like modernize it, whatever it is they tried to do, and I was so disappointed. And I was like, dude, you got this product that you can probably use very well, why are we going in that direction when we actually can go in a direction where most fans will be really happy with it?
Yeah, I saw the Mummy,
Yeah,
which was, I guess, their attempt to launch that Dark Universe series,
Yeah.
and for my money, it had way too many buses flying through the air, and things exploding, and Tom Cruise hanging from airplanes for a Mummy movie.
exactly.
Yeah.
So
It felt like someone with suits made a lot of calls on that,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's what I felt like, and it's so funny because I know a lot of people make fun of the Mummy movie that came out with Brandon Fraser, but that actually
And
had the
that's
heart
classic.
of those classics monsters.
yes,
If you did something in that vein, people would go out there like crazy, man. And, even if you brought Brandon Fraser back for a new Mummy movie, I think it'd do well.
yeah, probably those movies have their fan. I thought the first one was really fun,
Yeah, it was.
really good, and the sequels didn't work as well for me as the first one, but I really, and the guy who made that, I think it's Stephen Sommers, had previously made a movie called Deep Rising,
Hmm.
which is just a fantastic monster movie. It's pure monster movie at sea on a boat with some sort of like semi Lovecraftian behemoth, and just lots of good stuff.
Oh my god.
Some good fun popcorn viewing for Halloween.
Oh, definitely, man. Oh, now that we're here, and before we get to, well, we still got a little bit of time, but what would be your pick for people to watch during Halloween?
That's a tough call. It really depends, on what kind of horror you like. And I mean, I can tell you the movies that I like to come back to for Halloween. Not surprisingly, the original Halloween, John Carpenter's Halloween, is it's always a fun one to watch around.
It's always creepy, and it's so well made, and it's funny because it was on a budget, yet it's scarier than any of the stuff that came later on.
Yes. There's a more recent movie called Trick or Treat. It's kind of like a Pulp Fiction style horror movie. Really
with
a lot of fun. With Sam.
Yeah. I like Sam.
He's cool.
Shadow, you got to make Sam. He's a cute little trick or treater with a strange old-timey costume, and he looks so cute, but he's so deadly.
And when you see what's under the mask, it's even worse. But the classics are always.
People don't remember Trick or Treat.
No, you don't think so?
I find like Sam is more popular now, but I don't know if it's because Sam is so cute or if the movie's gotten more of a following. I know before a lot of people, you would say Trick or Treat, and they were like,
yeah, no one saw it when it came out. It was something that kind of caught on. You're right; it's developed maybe a cult following.
Yeah.
You can't go wrong with any of the classics. The classic Universal Dracula, Frankenstein, the Wolfman in particular is a great one.
Yeah.
And I think the Hammer films are always, Horror of Dracula, Curse of Frankenstein are great.
Oh, yeah.
For Halloween watching. I could go on. So
it's so funny though, because we end up going back to the 70s, and of course some of those are from the 60s and 50s. Yes. But it feels like that was the last time when horror was in anywhere near what it is now.
Yeah, and I think it appears that way to us because we look back at all of that stuff sort of collectively.
Yeah.
But it all came out over. I mean, those Hammer movies spanned like 30 years, or something, and or 20 years at least. Mm-hmm. And there's great stuff from the 70s and 80s. Nightmare on Elm Street's a great Halloween movie.
Fright Night.
Oh my God, I love Fright Night.
You're so cool, Brewster.
That's it. That movie's really a classic, and I think it's starting to get the recognition it deserves.
I knew it was a classic when they tried to remake it, and I was like, no, I'm sorry.
Yeah, you know what? I enjoyed the remake on its own. As Fright Night, it was like, okay, this isn't as good as Fright Night, the original, but I still thought it's not a bad movie.
I can agree with you. I completely can agree with you with that. I've seen movies like that before where you sit there and go, this is a good movie, but it's not a good this movie.
Yes.
I did that with the Punisher that came out with what was that Punisher when he was in Miami?
Wasn't that Thomas Jane?
Yeah, and
John Travolta was the villain.
Exactly. And I was sitting there going, this is a good vigilante movie, but it's not a good Punisher movie.
Yeah,
they've had trouble. They still haven't gotten the Punisher right.
No. Every single time they make the movie, I think the closest they've gotten to it is the TV show.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good.
I mean, again, I thought it was a good show on its own. I enjoyed it. I liked that character. That character's not the Punisher. The Punisher never had any interest in redemption, or he was out there to punish the bad guys.
He's the Punisher,
with bullets and bombs and his fists, and that was it. So maybe that version on Netflix is more interesting. He's a more interesting character. He's more dimensional, and I thought the guy they cast, I think it was John Bernthal played.
Yeah, he's pretty good in it. Yeah,
I was surprised. I was not a fan of his, but he kind of won me over on that show.
I have to say the same thing. I didn't like his style before the show, but I like what he did with the character in the show. Yeah. Completely agree with you there. Shadow, if you had to pick your Halloween movie, what would it be?
I don't know, man. I'm just watching comedies now. I can't handle any more scary stuff, to be honest with you.
Shaun of the Dead.
Oh, that's a great movie.
Horror.
Oh, yes, horror and comedy. I like horror and comedy.
Really,
It's one of the things-
Zombieland, if you're going that route.
Oh, Zombieland is fantastic. Yeah,
That's a good one.
You know, my movie, if we're going horror comedy, is Evil Dead 2, because I can't stop. Anytime I watch that movie, especially the fight with the hand, it just gets me cracking up.
Yeah, Bruce Campbell is always a treat.
Oh my God, I love him. He does amazing with those things. You know, he's a pretty good character actor.
And slapstick.
Oh, great, fantastic.
That's half his thing.
Oh, I loved him when he was on Xena and Hercules. That's felonious.
Yes, I had forgotten about that.
Oh my God. All right, so I guess we're coming near the end of our stint here. All right, so what's your last word? What do you want to leave the audience with?
You mean about writing or
whatever you want to talk about?
Whatever I want to talk about. Oh my God. All right. You mean I don't have to talk about Kolchak again? No.
Oh no, you can talk about whatever you want.
One monster you'd like Kolchak to face that he hasn't.
Ooh.
Oh, that would be really cool. I'd love to see him go up against something like maybe one of the more contemporary horror movie monster icons.
Interesting.
Like Freddy Krueger or something would be an interesting,
that'd be interesting.
Or Candyman.
Yeah.
That would be kind of fascinating. Yeah.
How would he handle that?
I don't know. That
you've got to write it.
I'd love to be the one to figure that out, though.
Dude, man, now you got me. I'm like, how would he? I can see Kolchak winning in the end, but I feel like I think he'd lose some stuff in this.
It would be tough. Yeah.
Well, now that Shadow's brought that up, what would you be your dream project then?
My dream project? There's so many. I mean, how do you pick one? I'd love to write a Batman series. I'd love to write a Dr. Fate comic book series.
Both of those make sense. Yeah.
I would love to write a Godzilla book. A Godzilla novel or something like that. I love that stuff. But I think realistically, my dream project is, I've been writing a lot of short fiction, novellas, comics, and I've got several novels that I've been working on. And so I think the dream project is going to be to kind of make that leap into, writing novels on a regular basis.
Yeah. Okay.
Nice.
Yeah. And, if any of that other stuff happens to come along, great.
So if you were to write your own creator series, which direction would you go? Because I can see you have a lot to pick from.
Like as a comic or book series or?
Well, you say you like comic books, and I know novellas you're jump into, you'll do your thing. So if you picked a comic book that you were going to do your own creator comic book,
yeah,
which way would you go with it?
Horror.
I figured that much.
Yeah, and I actually have a project in the works.
Ooh.
It stalled due to the pandemic. Working with an artist, we were at the point of putting together the proposal. Ooh. And the comic industry basically shut down. And it was clear that publishers weren't really looking to pick up new projects at that point. That seems to have changed course now. And so I think we'll get back to it. Yeah. I can't say too much about it, except that it's related to one of the most important literary works of horror.
Ooh.
/ science fiction.
Intriguing.
in the genre, yes.
Well, it's funny that you say that, because I was talking to who was that? I was talking to Rich Davis, the writer for Cult of Dracula.
Yes.
And I was thinking, we were there talking, I was like, I didn't realize the connection between horror and steampunk, or horror and that 1800 sci-fi, and there's this amazing connection between both of them, especially because Frankenstein is horror sci-fi. type of thing with that steampunk type of technology. And you're sitting there going, wait a minute. And then you think about the Time Machine, you think about all those 1800 books that have this sci-fi lean to them, and you're like, okay, so there is a connection between both sides. And it just like, it was one of those aha moments that you're sitting there, you're going, wait a minute. So like I personally keep thinking in that direction. And what would I do if I did something that was horror, sci-fi related in that direction? And I've been mulling this over in my head recently because I did have that conversation.
Cool. Did you come up with anything fun?
I have bits and pieces, and it's going interesting directions. Let's see where it goes. But it's interesting to see, that if you look at the original monsters, there's such diverseness in those horror stories.
Yeah, and the thing that the classic monsters have that I think a lot of contemporary horror lacks is that they are sympathetic on some level, especially the universal monsters. The universal monsters are all in some sense tragic characters, or at least sympathetic characters, or characters who are objects of horror for reasons not entirely in their control.
Right.
And that's an element that gets lost in a lot of modern horror, or modern horror creatures. I think there's no sympathetic level to Leatherface or I mean, I guess there is for Jason. I was just going to say there isn't for Jason, but there really is because of his origin.
In the first, I mean,
in the first one at least,
so
much.
Yeah.
But after he was on the space station,
you kind of lose. Yeah. After that, you kind of lose them.
Yeah, exactly.
I have one more
first
question.
Story, yeah.
You were talking about, working with the artists and, how they've brought into another level. One artist that you'd like to work with before it's all said and done.
My top picks have all passed away, sadly.
Ooh.
And I have gotten to work with not as a writer, but as an
You're
editor.
a horror writer. Top pick, living or dead.
We'll
dig him up.
For an artist?
Yeah.
Bernie Wrightson.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I'd love to write a horror comic for Bernie Wrightson to draw. And my second choice, or one of my second choices, is probably going to be a little bit of odd, but Johnny Craig, who was an EC artist. He was a classic EC artist. Vault of Horror was his book. And he drew a lot of their classic covers and just had such a great style.
I can see why you pick him.
Yeah. But yeah, I think, Bernie Wrightson was the artist when I discovered comics. He was the first artist that I latched onto as, wow, this is amazing stuff. This is something I want to do in some way. I want to create comics. And of course, at the time I wanted to draw like that. And nobody can draw like that except Bernie Wrightson, of course. He could draw like that. And I can't draw that well, well enough to do it at a professional level. So I turned to writing.
Exactly. Like if I was to do a drawing book, it'd be like these stick figure books. It'd be very horrific, but for a bad reason.
There was a comic in the 80s, I think, in the 80s, maybe early 90s. I believe it was called Inviso World. And everything in Inviso World was invisible. And so the whole comic was panels and letter balloons.
I remember it.
Yeah.
I haven't thought about it, but I remember.
Like, very avant-garde.
That's about my speed.
Actually sounds like something I would do. Oh, you don't see it? It's beautiful.
Right.
I was in a class where someone came in with the blank canvas, man. If I didn't have anything well written on it, so.
So to finish the question, then, who alive would you like to work with?
I'm just thinking through. I mean, Mike Plug, he's alive. I follow him online, and he's always posting great, sketches and excerpts from his work. He's amazing. Bill Sienkiewicz, who's mostly known for Moon Knight and New Mutants, and he's amazing. I mean, there are so many great artists in comics right now.
Right, there are. It's amazing. It's
Yeah.
amazing to I don't know, like I'm at a loss for words. Actually, it's just incredible the amount of artists and beautiful work that's out there now.
Yeah, and the art has gotten so much more sophisticated in a lot of ways. Just not even just what it's showing, but in its production.
Yeah,
There's a lot of people out there who don't put pen to paper to draw comics anymore. It's all digital.
Yep.
And it's opened some interesting doors.
Mm-hmm.
And there's an artist. Actually, I'm reading this. Just started reading this comic. I think the second issue is out now, called Echo Land, by J.H. Williams and William Hayden Blackman. J.H. Williams is astonishingly talented as a comics artist. So I'd love to write something and see what he could do with it.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
It sounds like you got a lot of nice projects, a lot of people that you can actually go with. That's good. Having plenty of projects is always a good thing.
Yes, I mean, I'll never get to work with any of those artists, but
you never know, man.
But I'm working on the other project with one of my Kolchak collaborators,
Right.
Louis Cernashevsky, and he's amazing. And so I love working with him, and what he does with the story and his drawing is just, he's one of those guys that I'm trying to get this project done before he's discovered by all the big companies.
Oh, that makes so much sense. Dude, we got to do this. What? Wait, what's the rush? No, do it now. Come on.
Right.
All right. So I guess my last word is going to be, hold on a second. Share this on the screen, because I knew they were under their total, but I think they finally made it, which is we just finished talking about Rich Chambers. Now I'm putting names together. Rich Davis and Cult of Dracula, and they have their Kickstarter going, and it looks like they're actually over their pledge goal, which is great. I'm happy they are. They still got 14 hours to go. Dude, help them out. It's a great book. Cult of Dracula is a fantastic little book. It has some beautiful stuff, some amazing covers. The classic movie feel that we're just talking about ourselves.
Yeah.
And Rich has a pretty good book here. So, and there goes a Shannon Meyer cover, which Shannon always does amazing work. And, guys, go and support them. I'm happy that they're over their goal. That means that the book will get made. But go on, help them out. Especially if you like horror and you like comic books. It is a great combination to always have. And I still love my horror comics. That's my final word. Shadow, what's yours?
Nothing scarier than giving up on humanity. So go out there and be kind to each other.
Wow, you got deep, bro. All right, James, where can they find you? They know they're going to go looking for you. So where is it? Can they be like, hey, this is James Chambers stuff?
My website's a good place to start, jameschambersonline.com. If you go there now, forgive the messy look. It's in the midst of a revamp, but all the info's there. And I'm easy to find on Facebook. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Instagram. And I always love to hear from readers. So feel free to reach out and hopefully check out some of my books.
I think Vincent has a good question for you here. Has any of the Kolchak family contacted you about the comic books?
No. I think shortly after I started work on the Kolchak graphic novel, Jeff Rice, the creator of Kolchak, passed away. In fact, while I was working on that, he passed away. And so I think the literary estate has moved down to his heirs. And I haven't had any direct contact with them. I know they're in touch with my publisher, of course, but I haven't talked to them directly. I'd love to. I'd love to hear what they think about the books and comics.
I thought it was a great question. So I figured I'd ask you. It was like, wait a minute, I want to know too.
Yeah.
All right, guys, this has been The Written Writ. We've had fun talking geekery, horror, writing, creating. It has been a blast. I'm going to do what I always do. I press the button where it stops